Okay. All right. We are recording.
All right. Welcome to Simply HR, the podcast series that provides ChenMed employees with clear-cut solutions. We live in a world that's complex and dynamic with lots of information. Simply HR provides clear-cut solutions from interviews with subject matter experts across our Human Resources Center of Excellence. They'll share what you need to know and why it's important. I'm Greg Inozemsev, Director of Learning Architecture and Experience Design in ChenMed U, and today I'm speaking with Brandon Conkle, Director of Total Rewards, who will provide practical insights and updates on one of our incentive programs called STIP, which is short for the Short-Term Incentive Plan. Brandon, thanks so much for speaking with us today.
No, I'm glad to be here. Great opportunity to get out and share some of the information about a program which is so core to some of the things that we do.
Absolutely. So maybe before we begin, Brandon, for those who aren't as familiar with you, could you maybe give a quick intro and describe what you and your team are responsible for here at ChenMed?
Sure. So Total Rewards covers what people commonly think of as compensation and benefits. So your health insurance, your life insurance, those kind of things are one part of my team. And then merit and bonus, including STIP, are part of my other side.
Got it. So you hold a very important role in the company because when it comes to benefits and compensation, you're the man in charge.
My team and I do a great job trying to support everyone else.
Fantastic. So let's talk a little bit then about some of the incentive programs. This year, ChenMed expanded eligibility to all employees for incentive compensation, which is really awesome news. It underscores our values and reinforces that everyone wins when they contribute to our success. So what should employees know about these incentive programs?
Yeah, again, it's just such a good story to say that every single person has some type of variable compensation. You know, if you're based in a center, you have the SSP, Shared Success Program. If you're commissioned, you have a commission base. And everyone else is on STIP, which is Short-Term Incentive Plan. So really, it is everyone wins. Each of the programs overlaps. If one program does well, the other programs are going to go well. But there's slight differences and variations between the two, or between all three of them. And we're going to focus on STIP today, but it's a great opportunity for everyone to win.
Awesome. So with the focus being on STIP, Short-Term Incentive Plan, why is it called short-term, Brandon?
So that's actually one of those things. Short term just means within a year. So we're looking at our fiscal year from January to December, and that's what makes it short term. Some folks have a long-term incentive which crosses years, but again, that's a much smaller group. But for us, it's how did we do in the year? Same thing with the merit. When we're looking back at your merit increases, how did we do during the year for your merit and your performance appraisal? STIP ties into that year-long process.
Okay, fantastic. So with the focus of our conversation today being on the short-term incentive program, I mentioned earlier that we've expanded eligibility. So who is eligible for STIP?
So STIP is basically the catch-all. So if you're on commission and you're on SSP, you're not on STIP. Everyone else is on STIP. So again, that will tend to be, SSP is for your center level, commission is for your MGCs and your sales folks. Everyone else will be on STIP. So again, think market level or higher, and home office is going to be your STIP population.
Perfect. That's a really helpful distinction. So I'm sure the question on everyone's mind is, great, we've expanded eligibility, but help me understand, how is STIP calculated?
So STIP is calculated, there's a threshold. The company has to make enough money to fund the program. And then everyone is broken into basically 4 different categories for payment. You have your individual results. My manager gave me a goal to do X. That's 25%. You have your individual relationships. How well do I live the vision, the values? That's 25%. Then you have business factors. And the business factors are net membership growth. How are we growing? That's a strategic goal for us. And the other is EBT, earnings before taxes, income. Basically, how much money are we bringing in to fund kind of the programs? So those 4 factors, each one counts 25% once you have the total company funding.
Okay, all right. And so for those employees listening who are eligible for STIP, wondering, what's my range or my, target? What can you say about that? Because I'm sure that's likely to perhaps change year over year.
Certainly. So in terms of everyone's target percent, targets will go up as you move up an organization. So, directors will have a higher target than senior managers. Senior managers will have a higher target than managers. The easiest answer is always ask your manager in terms of what my incentive target is. You can also reach out to Ask HR, and they can tell you. In terms of the payment run rate, you can go take that target value, and the lowest that you could possibly pay is 0. You have to have the results. If you don't have the results, you get paid 0. But the maximum payout is 150% of whatever that target value is. So again, most people the most common target is 7.5%, which to wrap people's heads around that, 3.8% is a paycheck. So you're roughly saying you have an incentive opportunity that is worth 2 extra paychecks, an extra month's worth of pay. And then if you really maximized everything, that'd be 6 weeks worth of pay. So almost a month and a half if you really, really did well.
That's a really helpful way of thinking about what those potential targets can look like, Brandon. Curious, what can employees do to directly influence that incentive payout? Everyone wins when we contribute, but what does that look like when it comes to the short-term incentive plan?
So for the short-term incentive plan, again, we talked about the business factors, EBT and membership. And you may sit down and say, hey, I don't bring people in. I'm not a salesperson. Well, yes, but you have a role to play in making sure that our existing patients are seen, are valued, that we retain them, making sure we support folks, making sure we control cost. So med costs sometimes are areas of functionality. Make sure that when we spend money, we're getting an investment. And then on your individual goals and objectives, make sure we're living that cultural statement. Hold people accountable, help people when they need help, provide the gift of feedback, and again, make sure you're living up to your individual goals that you're given by your manager. All those things, all those are building blocks that come up to the total company number and the total company results that result in payouts.
That's fantastic. And so performance management plays a really important part here too when it comes to the goal setting and the role that the manager plays in supporting those goals and coaching and feedback. And it sounds like really ensuring that everyone's clear on what's expected of them, results, relationships, coupled with the company's performance overall. Yeah. Absolutely.
Those quarterly check-ins, when you sit down and say, hey, am I on track, off track, ahead of schedule, or even if it's, hey, I need to pivot. The goal I thought I had at the start of the year isn't the goal that I'm going to have at the end of the year. Those quarterly conversations are so important to make sure that, one, your manager's giving you feedback, but make sure that you also understand, what is it that I should be doing? Where should I be focusing my energy and my directions?
Absolutely. Awesome. So Brandon, with the foundational understanding of what STIP is, who's eligible, what goes into it, let's move into some rapid fire questions that are on top of employees' minds. So when do employees receive their payouts?
So payouts will occur in March following year. So again, STIP within a year. So you have January through December. They'll close the financials in December, work through the numbers in January. You'll have performance review for the year end. That'll occur February, and then payments are approved in March.
Got it. Okay. And if an employee joins mid-year, say June or July, are they eligible for STIP as well?
They are. So it's a prorated target. So it's based upon your time here with the company off your hire date. It's also the same thing that if you're promoted. So I mentioned that higher levels will have higher targets. I get promoted from a manager to a senior manager or a manager to an associate director. I'll be prorated in terms of my target opportunity for the time that I'm in each role.
Fantastic. And on the flip side of that, what happens if an employee leaves ChenMed for any reason before that March timeframe when they would have been paid?
So that's a great question. And this is one of those things I call credit card statements. Terms and conditions apply. So you do have to be employed at the time of payment to receive payment. So again, we talk about turnover. That's been on other calls. You have to have been here through the year, or you were brought in partway through the year. You've got a prorated amount but you have to be employed at the time of payment to receive a payment.
Got it. So in addition to leaving ChenMed for any reason to not be eligible, is there anything else that might make an employee ineligible to receive incentive compensation?
Well, again, I mentioned that we have to have the results to pay the bills. So you have to have overall company results. On an individual basis, if someone is not performing well, they are not going to benefit from the good performance of other folks. So again, 5-point scale, if you're at that lowest point on the scale or the next to lowest point of the scale, there is the limit in terms of what you could possibly get paid.
Got it. That makes sense. And so when payment does happen in March of the following year, how will that show up in the pay slips for employees?
It'll show up as a separate pay line, and it'll say annual bonus. So it'll be
All right.
clear what it is.
Sounds pretty straightforward. And I'm just curious, Brandon, what have you and your team heard since making the announcement that we've broadened the eligibility of the incentive program this year from employees?
So it's been really well received, and like a lot of things, and like there are different levels of understanding. So it's always good to ask questions. It's always good to reach out. You've got an entire group here that's Ask HR, that's willing and open to answering questions. And if there's something they can't answer, they'll escalate it to my team. We've also put out different materials on the Total Rewards website on the Team Connect site. So again, people are excited, but we have to deliver the results. So this is year one of us being, everyone into some type of incentive. So it'll be multiple years before we get everyone kind of to the point of everything's working really well. But we're on the path, and again, it's exciting to be part of something new, which seems to be something you can say every day at ChenMed.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so I'm glad you mentioned ChenMed Connect, where employees and managers can find out more on the Total Rewards site. So there's only so much we can cover today during this podcast. So more there, and then certainly if there's additional questions, reaching out to Ask HR as another resource. I'm curious, what could you share for those people managers listening? What advice or expectations do you have for them to really help support this effort?
So for managers of people, it's really important to, again, it seems basic, but stay up to date with your quarterly check-ins. Stay up to date with your managers. It all waterfalls down. Make sure you understand where you stand in your team, in your COE or your center or your market. I say market, I know where areas now, where your area going forward. All of those pieces, again, it all builds up from the bottom up. And it truly is everyone wins, but everyone wins when we achieve. So it's got to be a bunch of people pulling together to hit those goals, especially those company business factors.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Brandon, it's been a pleasure chatting with you, learning more about the short-term incentive program. Any final words to employees or managers who might be listening?
No, again, I think this is a great opportunity, and again, it's exciting. ChenMed is one of the few companies where we can honestly say everyone has some opportunity, whether that's SSP, commission, or now STIP.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, Brandon, thank you again to you and the Total Rewards team for everything that you do. Lots of great insights on STIP. To learn more, visit the Total Rewards intranet site. On ChenMed Connect, reach out to HR Answers, and be sure to check out future interviews with other experts in our HR Center of Excellence. Thanks for joining us today, and as always, send any feedback or questions on today's episode or future episodes to chenmedu@chenmed.com. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.